started.
Everybody,
Timer's going.
Do you see the green light? There's a timer that's counting down now. We only have 59 minutes and 48 seconds. Welcome to Dungeon Master Problem Solvers! Yes!
Thanks, Casey.
Thanks, Casey. Okay, we are here today to talk about dungeon mastering, to talk about game mastering, to talk about problems that Jesse and I have run into and how we solve them. And what we are hoping is some of you will also have stories to share so that we can either, all have a good laugh about them, or we can help you solve your dungeon mastering problems. For those of you like myself who are forever dungeon masters and never get to play.
I get to play sometimes, which is great. So also, if you have questions from that side of the table, also welcome to ask those.
Absolutely. But while you think of things, a little introduction for those who don't know. My name is Jack Packard. I have been game mastering for about 7 years now. I am the dungeon master of our show, Adventure is Nigh, which is a little... Oh, that's right. If you... Thanks, Casey. Currently, including Adventures Nigh, I am game mastering 4 separate campaigns, including one for my children and their friends, which is absolute chaos. I'm a professional improviser, which I will not shut up about. And for 18 years, I've been a professional internet dork. And those are my qualifications to talk to you about dungeon mastering.
I'm Jesse Galena. I'm a player in Adventure is Nigh, the show that we do over on Second Wind. And I learned about tabletop RPGs when I was in college, so a bit of a late bloomer there compared to most people I know that started when they were in middle school, and fell in love with it and been doing it ever since, and started making my own games about a year after I learned what the medium was. Don't recommend that. You should probably play more games first, then start making. But it did lead me to make a bunch of games, including Lexicon, which is my current one. I hyper-focus on tabletop RPGs. I write stuff, which is available on my itch page, which you can see at the end. And then I think all magic items should have a punny name, and that is... It's very important to me. I think it's very important.
Absolutely. Also, if both of you can notice, both Jesse and I are reading all of the things about ourselves because that's how bad we are at this.
Oh, yeah.
So,
we're not
congratulations. All right,
yeah.
Next slide. That's right. We are also part of Second Wind, which is our YouTube channel, a video production company where we make Adventure is Nigh and all of these fun stuff. Oh, look, here's Adventure is Nigh. It's part live action, part animated. We spend far too much time animating our D&D adventures. Because we think it is so much darn fun.
Yeah, and editing them. That's an important thing, is ours is edited. So it's an hour-ish, and we cut out a bunch of stuff. That's just us talking about the game and rules lawyering, so it's just the best bits.
Right, because the general audience doesn't like rules lawyering, even though we all do.
Yeah.
That's Adventure is Nigh, and I don't know how long this clip goes, so we're going to stay in silence for a second.
I can skip it. That is possible.
Oh, that's better. Do that.
All right, we'll do that. And there we go.
Okay, so we are here to solve all your tabletop problems. Start thinking of stories to share with us. We have a microphone, both in the side aisles. For when you have your story, you can get up and share it with us. But first, we will share some of our own stories. We each have a simple and complicated story to share. So I'm going to cut over to Jesse.
Sure.
What is your simple dungeon mastering story?
If you've dungeon mastered, you've been in this situation. You have people, and you're like, I've got this great 2-session adventure. It's gonna go great, smooth, easy. Session 6 comes around, and you're like, I need to end this. So I had players that I had a whole setup for an encounter of combat, and I was like, they're never going to get to where I need them to be. So had to immediately, I very much believe in modular DMing, where you have an idea and you try to make it as small as possible so you can easily move it somewhere else. Here's a trait that a character will have. Oh, they didn't talk to that character, but they talked to this character. Whoop, that's now his accent. Okay, here we go. Being able to move it around. So being able to do that, have a big, fun combat encounter. Hey, that kitchen staff that they didn't interact with, that just went into the kitchen, they're also security. Here they come. So being able to change stuff that, you're not married to that, you're like, this has to go this way, and be like, yeah, security staff, their kitchen staff, absolutely make it work this way. So being able to switch stuff around, very important.
Ooh, modular
Yeah.
game mastering. I like that a lot because we spend a lot of time, all the game masters here, we spend a lot of time building our worlds, making our characters, and if your players ignore all the crap you've built, it's annoying. So save it for later.
I do that. I absolutely ignore a lot of stuff. You
Yeah,
put
as a
out there.
player, you do. It's very infuriating. My story is more urine-based, so just, start setting your standards a little lower. My players are very into the reality of the world. We are a bunch of improvisers, very yes and orientated. And so we had a situation in which a bunch of new players were in a combat scenario. They had knocked out the enemy, and then they wanted to interrogate them. So as everyone knows, once an NPC goes down to 0, they are knocked out, not necessarily dead. To wake them up, one of my players peed on him. And kind of flippantly, I said, oh yeah, that wakes him up. And they said, well, does that mean he goes up to 1 HP? And I just kind of said, sure, yeah, he's up to 1 HP, so now you can interrogate him. They took that to mean that his pee healed 1 HP.
Brilliant.
Oh no, right. But so then he started peeing in jars, and his character, not in real life. But so I had to find a way to balance him peeing in his character peeing in jars and taking it with him. I forced him to track his urine output.
Wow.
That was his punishment, and that balanced it. And no matter how much pee, it only cured 1 HP. A slightly better spare the dying, exactly.
I'm curious, were they like a cleric? Did they have any sort of healing outside of this?
It is the barbarian. It was the barbarian. 100% it was the barbarian. But it also opened up a little bit of lore in my mind because that they turned out to be blessed. They were only slightly holy, and that actually turned into a whole hook for my players.
So just their bladder was blessed. The rest of them. Yeah. There it is.
That's why they call it HP. Holy pee. For those of you who just joined us, welcome. We're talking about urine.
It's a very important part of dungeon mastering.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows.
Absolutely. So if anyone else has a story to share, a question to ask, now would be a great time to stand up. If not, Jesse and I will just continue talking.
It's true. We have 50 more minutes. We will just talk about RPGs. It's what we do.
Hold on. Someone got up, but they might be leaving, or they might be walking to a microphone.
Not sure. Which way they're going? Oh, they turned? They're going towards the mic.
Yes, they're going towards the mic.
Oh, they've been sniped.
Oh!
It's neck and neck here.
Yeah.
You go first. I think you got it first, please.
Okay. So I have a game of, do not ask me how I do this, 12 players.
Oh, wow. I'm
They have a
impressed
game
already.
of 12 players, for those who didn't hear.
You might need a seat up here at that rate, but continue.
And for mental reasons, I needed a break. How do I get my players back into all of this? And when I have players who have to take their own breaks, how do I get them back in once they've had to take a break?
Ooh.
That's a great question, by
That
the
is
way.
a super great question. I have a clarification. When you say take a break, like you need to stop DMing for a little bit, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So I stopped DMing in about February, and I'm hoping to bring it back again because it's been a 2-year campaign so far.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right, so the break has already happened, or, okay. My first thought would be ease them back into the hardest part. Everybody on 3, scheduling. Oh my gosh, you actually did it.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was just a joke.
Oh, no, we all know what the hardest part is.
So I would say try and set it up, start doing something at that time, at that day, like being board games, being, I don't know, potlucks, whatever it is that y'all like doing.
Unfortunately, we're from all over the place.
So it's all online?
It's all online.
Jackbox.
And I would actually give the opposite advice, which is start sending out your hook now.
Oh, that's
You know, the hook for the next arc of your campaign, just send it to them. Oh, the village that they love is burning down. You better show up or it's toast. I always love threatening my players with the things they love.
Yeah.
I tried that, and they decided to instead embrace the evil god and turn the entire party from good to evil.
Oh my gosh, that's way more fun. But also, like, this is a great idea to communicate with your players if other of them are DMs, to say, hey, would you mind everyone going on a little side quest and person B DMing? Would you mind doing this? Oh, if everyone can't make it, that's okay. Half of the group splits up for the episode, right? The episode, where I'm talking in TV terms, for the session.
Yeah.
That's what normal people call it.
Also, to piggyback on that, another great thing is to get your players start talking about their characters and what they're doing. So, like, you've had that break, you're like, hey, we're coming back. What were they doing in this time? And be able to add a little hook for them to get them invested on, like, well, I have to be there at Thursday now because I need to know what happens with my pet cat or whatever the thing is.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
question.
thank you.
I can go next. Yeah, guys, I will say it's so cool to see you here and the rest of the Second Wind crew. I love you guys and the content you make. Adventure Night is one of my favorite things on the internet. Everyone here should watch it if you haven't already.
It's true.
Thank you.
Yeah, just getting into the questions here. I probably have way less DM experience than the crowd here on average. I've only been DMing maybe like 6 months to a year. I got into it recently, and my partner and I have been kind of solo playing. Like, she's a gnome rogue, Odie Spindrift, which is great. And regardless, I'm getting into the grips of it, and a couple more friends want to join us. And I guess, as someone who's very new to this, we have a pretty concrete backstory for my partner and her character, and I'm sure that, like, the new friends that want to join us will as well. I guess the thing is, how do you balance, like, imagine the equivalent of this being like a video game, right? Where every character, every companion has their own, like, motivation, their quest line, and this objective that they want to achieve. How do you, like, achieve catharsis for all these three people, and just how many ever people are at the table in a way that's, like, cohesive and doesn't feel like you're playing favorites, I guess, is the question. Which is a really big thing, I'm sure. But, any tips would be helpful.
Especially when you're in a relationship with one of them and you need to show favoritism.
Yes. I'm not sure how to answer that, except I love you.
Right answer. Good stuff.
Absolutely. A lot of that balancing act just comes from your note taking, right? Where you have to for every character. Oh, they just got a new spell. I want to make sure I set up a thing for them to utilize that spell. They may or may not. Is give them those offers. So you should have in your little DM notebook. Oh, here's my offer for my wizard. Here's my offer for my thief. And hope that they can get that. And you also have to trust them a little bit to give each other space. And you have to be a mean dad every once in a while and referee and make sure, honey, you can't be the star of this one. I'm very sorry.
Like, I mean, credit to my partner. Like, she's great. Like, this is not a problem that exists. But
I understand. Wink. Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, that's fine.
God, Jack, you're gonna get me in so much trouble. Jesus, why would you do this, sir? That is helpful. Like, essentially always trying to keep track of, like, okay, what's the thing I can put on the table in front of them that could potentially they could be interested in, right? And then going back to what you said, Jesse, the modular gameplay thing, right? Like, that might have. It dovetails together well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say for also on that being having kind of this set things of, like, oh, we use new spell, do this. A thing also being if someone's being a little shy and you want them to get more into it or whatever, you can have an NPC, from their region. And it's like, oh, they're not willing to talk to the rest of the party, but, like, you're from Cleveland?
yeah.
I'm from Cleveland. Like, hey.
The fantastical land of Cleveland.
It's just east of Westage.
It is. Somewhere near Florida, I think. But yeah, like, having a thing set up to, like, kind of get them in the spotlight for a moment, and that, like, this revolves around them, and, like, that also takes some pressure away from, like, oh, I need to be the face, and it's like, oh, this person doesn't have to be the face.
Right. It's like it's a low risk kind of, like, easy way to, like, let them bloom a little.
Absolutely.
I would also say, just for getting, especially since you have some people with, like, established backstory and stuff, a robust session 0. Everybody else can learn about each character's backstory, where they came from. I have a whole thing on my itch page is Rexicon Jesse, because that's my handle, .itch.io, and I have a thing called the interactive backstory session, which is you have, everybody shares their backstory, and you have a bunch of tokens, and then you give a token to someone, and you're like, here's something that happened in your life somewhere. How did you react to it? What was the result of that? So you never
it's like
take
prompts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you never take agency away from them and say, you were robbed and mad about it. Like, no, you say someone tried to mug you. What happened? And like when it happened. So now you have a bunch of people that are invested in each other's stories.
Genius.
And like now I know, oh yes, this one time where this thing happened, and you can incorporate that and understand decisions that they might make.
That is literally a game changer. Thank you, guys. It's amazing.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you, yeah. All right.
And thank you for dovetailing and also answering my intended question as well.
Oh, shoot.
Luckily, I've got a backup one.
Okay.
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool.
Great.
So, to make a long story short, since we're all sharing credentials, I only started in 2020, shortly before COVID, mind.
Oh,
Good.
And of course, I get a variety of players that are both introverted and extroverted. Verted. I don't mind the introvert part, of course. It's usually one or two people. One now, since the other one needs to go have a seat with Chris Hansen.
Don't share too much.
Yeah,
Legally
we
speaking,
can move on.
I ain't gonna, don't worry. But the other one, current player that's introverted, very much doesn't want to do is do a very much a speech-based talking a bunch. But she does still tend to keep to her habits, as it were, staying back, not pretty much not interacting, and I kind of have to needle her every now and then, like, hey, here's an opportunity for your character or something like that. Is there anything you recommend doing on that front? Because again, it's clear what they're intending, and they just need a little help along the way.
that's a good question.
They need a little, like, they want to, use a spell, but they can't quite articulate it. I guess, what do you mean by it's clear what they're intending?
Oh, well, in this case, they're more of a speech persuasion kind of deal.
Gotcha.
But they're not instigating a conversation with NPCs and stuff to start doing
Yeah,
that.
they're not instigating. They're when there's a clear opportunity for her to roll those conversational skills, she just doesn't. Which is a problem when she's the only one who really has any conversational skills in this game. Everyone else does things like lifts a ton of earth or eats multiple Texan barbecue platters.
Yeah.
Sure. I suppose, like, my first instinct there would be to ask them questions about their character sheet, like, oh, is there a skill you could use here? And kind of like offer them to do a little bit of research, leading questions. Oh, maybe you have a skill that you could use in this situation. Maybe you could do this, and that might build up some momentum and give them some confidence. That
Yeah.
was my first instinct.
Also, as being a player, I often miss my cues that the DM thinks are very obvious. And to be fair, probably are obvious.
Very obvious, yeah.
But I miss them. So they may be doing the same thing and just unaware, like maybe they're not as confident in it, or maybe they're just, thinking, oh, I can't wait for an opportunity, and it's... so yeah, very much being like, oh, roll this, and then get that, and you're like, oh, roll perception. Oh, you notice this person is fidgeting with this thing, and you recognize what it is. Like, oh, that's something that they know, that like they may want to talk about, or something that interests them. To get them invested in looking at that, and then you've led them to go, oh, now I have made the decision to go forward. Cool.
Yeah. Leading questions, they're
yeah.
your friend.
Very much so.
All right, so just rephrase future questions as leading, go as in maybe there's something you can do here instead of saying here's a good opportunity to roll charm or whatever.
Right, or like, I know something that we do a lot in Adventurers Nigh is instead of saying like, roll charm, roll persuasion, what sort of charisma check would you like to do here? Like, because it wants to be some sort of charisma. Let them choose, intimidation or charm or whatever, and that way you give them a little bit of control, kind of knowing what they want to do.
Yeah, and you can do that like with other checks as well. I usually just ask like, oh, how do you know about X? And then if they want to be like, oh, this is something my character's interested, this has history within the land, this has, oh, I noticed details, jewel craft, whatever it is that like specifically works for them.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your
And if
question.
my player somehow ends up watching this, no, I am not your GM. I repeat, I am not your GM.
It's not,
Thank you.
confirm, not your GM. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Longtime GM as well. This is a very broad question overall. As a GM, how do you manage your own happiness, over player enjoyment versus like what am I willing to take on in terms of prep and what you want to do? Like, how do you manage that and engage that for yourself, both at the table and beforehand in prep work?
That's a great question. Like managing your engagement, your happiness, like what you're doing. It's a cooperative storytelling. You're a part of it. Like that is very important.
Absolutely. I always, because I GM 98% of the time, it's very rare that I get to play. I always enjoy it when I do. But whenever I GM and my players do something that I am not expecting, I give them cookies. I make the biggest deal out of it because that's something I didn't prepare for, and therefore I get to play with them. If it's something I wrote, an asset I thought I was going to use, then it's a little boring for me. So whenever they do something outside of the box, I show them my excitement to encourage that kind of behavior through mechanics.
Yeah, when players see an excited DM, it's exciting. Like you want to feed off of that. Focusing on what you want to do, whether maybe more prep, less prep, this kind of adventure, like being able to incorporate that, talk to them about that, especially if it's something that's a little veering off. Like, hey, I want to try this, and see if people are into it. And also, do not neglect things outside of the table. So like, I know for me, if I do something like, oh, I haven't read any book or comic in a while, it tends to like suck the creativity, just siphon it out. Like I need external input of that sort of creative stuff to be able to feed back into DMing. So like pay attention to what makes you happy outside of it, and it will funnel in there and make it more fun and give you more ideas within it too.
Sure.
Absolutely. And the general blanket response to all this is communicate with your players outside of the table, which I know is stupid because we all know it, but it's good for reminders, right? Where it's like, hey, I want to make sure I'm putting a lot of work into my prep. I want you to put in some work, some character work too. And then we go back to, tell me a story about your character. Tell me how you got in this situation, and that will help inspire me.
And what if you don't do much prep?
Great.
Hell yes.
Then you get the excitement of, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Sounds great. Let's go there.
That's great. Yeah, you don't always need prep. Just have fun with it.
Yeah. Sometimes I enjoy a mix of prep work and let's see what the players do. I love that mix. And yeah, you don't need to prep everything. Especially if you enjoy that unexpected. Sometimes, depending on the player, a thing that I really like that makes me very excited when I have a good established group is give them what I think is a no-win scenario, knowing they're gonna find a way. Like they've bamboozled me so many times. It's like here it is. They're gonna find a way out though, and then be excited when that happens. Be like, ooh, they got it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I forget where I read it or heard it from, but one of the greatest pieces of puzzle advice is that you don't need a solution for your puzzles.
Yeah.
Just give them some crap to play with, and whatever solution they come up with, that was it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wrote. You're so smart.
Yep.
Because they're gonna spend so much time toiling that. Absolutely. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Is this working?
It is.
Yes.
Okay, I'm an idiot. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Also
It's a little
forever DM,
quieter.
so there's always that. So my question, a little bit in regards to what we were discussing in the previous question, is with player and DM time. So in a lot of the groups I tend to run, players are at a premium, so I tend to have to accept players that, under the best of circumstances, I probably wouldn't let in the game. So these are players where a session 0 will pop up, or heaven forbid, all the way into session 1, and it's like, okay, we're going to start this game. Fantastic. They haven't read anything. They have no idea what's going on, and they're quote is, "We're going to just wing it." Ooh. Sorry, I have this actually being recorded because I'm going to send this to him then. So my question then is, what would you do in that kind of a scenario? Would you try to work with that player more? Like they are just adamantly not reading a damn thing.
Ooh.
I know.
No, yeah, please.
So if they come, they're supposed to be off book at this time. I don't know if anybody's in theater in here, and they are not. I would say like, oh, you don't know how to play this game. Okay, well, sit tight, watch the game. We're gonna teach you how to play it as we play it, and you enjoy watching this first game. And yeah, like allowing like, and they can ask questions, like, you know, make sure they know, probably have a few breaks, like explain things to them, but spend that as a learning opportunity for them to know how to play the game. Because it also might be a matter of that reading the material is boring. I don't. I very much get someone to teach me it, which is something I do before session one. I do not show up going, all right, now just bring it on, I'm ready. Like I do that prep work beforehand. I ask the other players, I look up YouTube videos, I do whatever I can. So they might need a little more interactive way to learn it. Because I do think tabletop games are the absolute worst at teaching new players. If you try to read a book, you might know half of the rules, but you won't know how they work applied to a social setting.
What is it in the 5th edition book? It's page 176 is how to play the game. It starts on 176. That's stupid. But like you said, if players are at a premium, if it's hard for you to find players, then unfortunately that's the cost of admission for you, right? Which is like that, like how much crap are you willing to put up with? Well, I want to play with people, so you do have to be a little bit of a school teacher. I think for like episode 0, episode 1, that's okay. If we start getting into full arcs, full storylines, and they still, like if they've used a spell several times and are still asking you the rules, that's when we have a problem. If we're in session 5 or 6 and they still don't understand, you know, what initiative order is, you need to take them aside and say, hey, there's free PDFs, there's YouTube videos. I need you to learn this because I can't teach all my players. But if also, like you said, players are at a premium, shit, how much do you want to play? I'm sorry if I cussed. Can I cuss?
We're PG-13. We can say a couple of words.
Yeah, all right. Sorry, apologies for anyone with sensitive ears. So yeah, unfortunately, this is one of those classics. You got to be a little bit of a teacher, and then wean them off as you feel necessary.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a really good question.
Hi there. Hello. Oh, yeah.
Hi.
So I am currently running a game in Glitter Hearts, which is a powered by the apocalypse system. Okay, great. You know it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am the Glitter Master.
Glorious.
Yeah. So now you know about the system. So it's not very combat focused, and I found that combat has been not very fun or interesting in that system. Although it's, you know, I get that it's not the focus, that's fine, but it would be cool if it would a little bit better. So I'm curious if you have any things that you've done or ideas on that system that we could talk, I can get into the details, but if you know about it.
If you have an answer first, because it requires a follow-up. So.
Oh, okay, sure. No, and I have played a little bit of Masks, and I've played a little bit of Monster of the Week, which I believe is also the Powered by Apocalypse system. And Passions de la Pasión, which is also the same one, Spanish telenovela RPG for anyone who is interested in the most fun you will ever have. And yes, you are correct. Like they don't necessarily have that tactical combat built into it, but they do have, at least for Masks and Monster of the Week, they do have an injury system. So, and I'm unfamiliar with yours specifically. Do they have any sort of like damage system?
Yeah, there are hit points. They have those. Basically, they do a clash move. So there's no map, there's no turn, there's no initiative. But when they do a clash action, which is a fight action, depending on how well they roll, they either do damage or get damage or more or less of one or the other, basically.
Okay. And so I guess my follow-up question then is your issue the lack of tactics, or are you looking for a way to spice up combat through your descriptions?
Yeah, I think maybe a bit of both. I think the big thing is there's just not enough interesting stuff for them to do. It's I attack. One thing is that the numbers are very small, so it's
Right.
like I attack for one, then I get hit, then I attack for one again. So maybe just turning the numbers down just so we can get through it. But rather than that, it doesn't have to be a tactical decision or something like that. It doesn't have to be very crunchy, but what are some ways to make it just more interesting for them?
My recommendation, my time playing Masks, we utilized a lot of help actions. So that encouraged us to communicate a lot. So we would coordinate, our attacks or even our non-attacks, and that way we would get extra dice for the roll, or we would get number bumped up so we could be more efficient. So I would say that would be my recommendation: is make them utilize more interesting help actions. And that way, like even if a help action is, I want to take cover. Okay, I'll give you a +2 to your roll or something like that. Because it's all about encouraging systems mechanically that they can see a benefit of, right?
Yeah. I would say, and you kind of answered this, but maybe there's more. What is it that you really dislike? It's mainly you do a thing and then you basically have one attack action and one retaliation action and that's it?
Yeah, I think part of it is, there's just not enough choices for them to make. They don't have 20 spells, and that's fine. They don't want to do that. It's why we're not playing D&D, right? But I still want them to have interesting choices, and I think they get bored. That's the easiest answer. They get bored. Make it less boring.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's, I would say one, just think about more of what do you want out of it? And that's what do they want out of it? And one thing immediately that you could do based on what you're saying is attack and defend aren't really interesting. What are the other things they can do in combat to make it? So I really especially I love simpler systems and being able to focus more on the creativity and the choice that you do. So having a thing where it's all right, well, this is a armored turtle enemy and your attacks aren't going to do anything. So how are you going to get around that? What a direct assault will yield nothing. Allowing them, what are things that they can do outside of that? Can they distract them in this way? Again, kind of using a help action, I'll distract. I know I'm not going to damage them, but I'm gonna do a shadow puppet show in their face and distract them with that. It's okay.
That.
Yeah, so being able to incorporate teamwork and using stuff together, and can they use the environment? I'm gonna drop a chandelier on his head, or whatever you can do to incorporate more things. Because I like those systems, and a lot of times stuff, especially combat, does get dull because they basically give you two options. So yeah, finding more things to do within that.
I like that idea of an unstoppable enemy where it's you just have to figure something out. You cannot punch this enemy to death.
Yeah.
And it forces everyone to be a little more clever.
Yeah.
That's fun.
That's I love doing that.
I appreciate that, and I like that too, because I think the other problem we have is the rules are very open. I'm very nice, and I let them interpret things. Sure that works. So I let them kind of that's why it's boring. It's too easy. So let's take away all the obvious options, and then all they have left to do are those creative, goofy things like the vines come up and grab them and move them and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
That was a fun one.
That was.
Hi.
Hi.
So relatively new DM, and was getting my friends involved, and so they're just learning, and one of the big things they said is is there a way to make combat more exciting and more just speed it up a little bit?
What system?
5th edition.
5th edition.
Yeah. I know.
I have feelings.
All right, I'm going to take a
with
break.
you.
Jesse, you go right. Okay, wait. So your specific problem is that combat is taking too long.
Yeah, because they have to they're we have to check everything through you because we're still learning the system and figuring out okay, what happens next and that sort of thing. And then it's not their turn, so taking a while to get to them, and then they kind of slowly check out. And then, it's their turn, and you know, 5 minutes of brilliance, and then just waiting for a little bit of.
Sure.
I have been there. Yeah.
Here's my quick one before you get
sure,
into your
yeah, go ahead.
thing, which is, as you know, theoretically you are balancing the encounters mathematically correct according to whatever you're reading. But as a DM, usually you know what way the battle is going to go real dang quick. After one round, you're like, okay, my players are going to win. Now it's just a numbers game. F the HP. Don't worry about waiting till your enemies get down to 0. Just find a cool moment. And if they have 20 hit points left, but one of your players did a real sick-ass move, that's the finishing move. And that will perk everybody up and put a little button on it. Because you know they're going to win eventually. They usually do. So then it's just about cutting to the chase, cutting out the fat. That's my quick answer.
I've played 5th edition with people who know how to play it, and that is still how combat often goes, because somebody goes, well, I'm going to do this spell, which has this dice roll, and then I got to save here, and then I'm going to do, and then this, and then they have 18 turns. Yeah, so it can get, a thing I would suggest, especially if it's similar vein of like, oh, you kind of know how it's going, but spice it up a little bit in this way. Be like, all right, you have 2 initiative rounds. However the battle ends at the end of that, if it's looking real bad for you, that's how the like cinematically the fight will end. If it's looking real good for you cinematically, that's how the fight will end. Oh. So now you've got, everybody's like, I've got 2 turns to really yuck some stuff up, because we're PG-13, that's all I can say. So like
I
now
said the
you're,
F word.
you did. Oh, I missed it. We're allowed 1,
Oh, okay,
so I
I
think
did-
that was it. I'm glad I didn't say it. Cool. So yeah, give like, and let them know, like be like, you've got 2 turns. So now they're invested. Like every single action they take is gonna matter.
Absolutely. Nothing helps amp it up like a ticking clock. Whether it's, after 2 rounds, more enemies are coming and this will be more difficult, or after 2 rounds, everyone breaks and you might lose this battle. Because that is a thing, like we were talking about with the other system. We can be too nice to our players. We can allow them to win, and older versions of Dungeons and Dragons was significantly meaner to their players, and it hardened everyone, but they loved it. So push them around a little bit. Hurt them. Hurt your players. They love it. I don't know why you all love it so much, but they love it.
It's cinematic. It's fun. You want like that failure, that danger. That's part of the story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Luke loses his aunt and uncle before he's the hero. Kill an aunt and uncle.
So you're saying drop the doppelganger on them?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of them. Everything's a mimic. Just kill them. Kill them all. Thank you for your question.
It was really good. Thank you.
I hope I'm getting close enough to the mic for people to be able to hear this. I was going to say, I've only been a DM for maybe 1.5, 2 years. And I took on that mantle because I had a falling out with my ex, who was my former DM, which was really fun. She wasn't a very good DM, I'll be very honest.
Oh, dang.
She would intentionally leave me out of stuff.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't care if she hears this.
All right, this is turning into gossip
Yeah, I know.
hour.
Oh, my gosh.
But I had a question. I run and also play a lot of like World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness games.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I love them. Like Vampire the Masquerade or Vampire the Masquerade and Changing the Lost are my 2 big ones. And a problem that I frequently run into as a DM, even the few times that I have actually done it for more than like 2 or 3 sessions, was my NPCs end up really boring. I don't know how to write them in a way that is not either like just for like VTM, it's like, okay, you write this NPC of this clan this way, like that's just sort of how they tend to be. And then it's like, I feel like I have 2 options, which is they fall into the mold or they are explicitly outside of it. And it's like, I don't know how to get the middle ground. I don't know how to make interesting NPCs is what I'm trying to say. Even just like minor guys, I don't know how to make them not just, it's a guy with a name who doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good question.
How to make interesting NPCs.
Yeah.
The best advice I can give for that is steal. books you love, that character is now an NPC. Movies you love, that character is now an NPC. And it's we all know the tropes, right? We all know the thief with the heart of gold. We all know that. Just steal. It's now Bon Bolo, and that's my NPC. And just use that because someone else has already done the work for you of creating a character that you love.
Yeah.
So just do your best to emulate that. Steal from everyone. This is the best advice.
Yeah. Yeah, and people love Nurse Joy.
People love Nurse Joy.
Yeah.
Steal Nurse Joy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, stealing, absolutely great. If you
Take
I-
that out of context.
Yeah, steal-
Let's go.
you would download a car. Yes. Oh, good.
Okay.
So, yeah, stealing, a fun thing that I like doing, if you can take kind of two things and mash them together, your Bon Bolo and your whoever else, I don't know, Bindianda Jones?
Bubaka?
Yeah, and just mash them together and be like, how would this work? And now it's not something completely recognizable to the players. I would also say, do not underestimate the power of a silly voice.
I have to say, these games are all text-based.
Do not underestimate the power of silly spelling. Like,
Every W is now a V. That person is German, and they can read that.
yeah.
I got enough of that out of Homestuck. I don't know if I need to redo that.
Yeah, kind of like lean into an aspect of it that's like a little silly you can have fun with. And it does not always have to be the most silly thing, but like, loosen up, go that way. Once you're not focusing so hard on like, this has to be good, but you can kind of loosen to another thing.
Yeah.
It opens your mind up to be a little more like, oh, what about this? Oh, I have an idea here.
And beyond stealing, in the improv world, when we want to be a character, what we always say is have a point of view, right? Start with an emotion, start with a point of view. Where was that character before they showed up? Did they just come from the dentist and they're very upset about that and they're curmudgeonly? So, just write down some prompts for you. Oh, this is Karen. Karen has a toothache and a headache, and she is pissed today. And that's your note for Karen? Sounds like a Karen, absolutely. And or this, this is Homer. Homer's feeling a little amorous today, so he might flirt with everybody. And just if you have those notes, they have a point of view, and that gives you a starting point. And as soon as one of your players starts flirting back with Homer or fighting with Karen, now you have a good dynamic.
Gotcha.
Jack time traveled and stole the one I was going to say next, so.
What, Homer?
No, the whole have like a want and a need and an emotional state that they're in before. Like that is incredibly important and useful. So
There you go.
I agree 100%.
We did it!
Yay!
Thank you for your question.
Gotcha. Thank y'all.
Hello.
Hi.
So I've been DMing for about 10 years. My biggest problem that I have, and it's pretty constant, is like pre-session jitters, kind of constant anxiety that people will hate what I've prepared. Is there any way to fix that, or is that just something I have to live with?
That is, to me, the best feeling in the world because that means you care about it.
It's true.
Like before, I perform a lot, and before coming here, I was sick to my stomach. I'm sick to my stomach before I do every show I've ever done because I am worried. I want to do good for people. So no, there is no fix for that. Take it and enjoy it because that means you care, and your players should know that as well.
I also have that. Very much. I still have it to this day. As I put on my slide, been doing this for like 19 years. Every single session, yes, I feel the exact same way. Felt it before coming up here. Anything that you have a lot of investment in and have any brain space left over to think about how much investment you have in it, you're probably going to have those feelings. And I can't say that I turn them into enjoyment. That sounds great. I'll try and figure it. Maybe you could teach me how to do that one. But it is part of the passion that drives it. Like, yes, I know that it matters to me how much I want to have these people have a good time, like how much I want to entertain, how much I want to tell this story with people.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't feel great, yeah, but it is a good thing. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a terrible answer, but it's the truth.
That is.
If it's the answer, it's the answer.
Yeah.
If you fix that.
If it was easy, everybody would do it, and it's not easy, and that's part of it. So
That's true.
good on
Only,
you for
only
caring.
us sickos do it.
It's true.
All of us sickos who like murdering aunts and uncles. Great job. Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
Hi.
I have the question about time management for 2 reasons. One, our group that we play with a lot has a sort of 3.5 hours in, people get kind of tired and cranky, and
that's fair.
it really needs to be the time that it ends. And I don't think it's plot or narrative or interest that is causing that. It's just people sort of burn out.
Absolutely.
And the other reason is I want to start developing my own creative world building for one-shots. And the creativity is fine for me on the building a world big enough. It's trying to then scale the scope down to fit that time frame.
Yes. Okay.
Always the problem. No, you got it. You go. I'm sitting back. You go right ahead.
A friend of mine, the ADHDM, does this for her games. She makes if you're world building, I have a place that people are going to go. She makes travel brochures. I have to fit this in this single page of, don't you want to come here? And treats it like that, makes an actual brochure. The players may come across it if they care to, but that's for her to be oh, yes, here's everything I need. This is what's important. Here's what I think the hooks are, and sets it up that way. And that is a way to condense it a lot.
Absolutely. That's a great way to condense it. Obviously, those of us who Dungeon Master a lot, we love to prepare. We want to get all of our super great and wonderful ideas out there, which usually means you plan for 4 encounters, but that would take 8 hours of gameplay. And so the thing that I do is every single encounter has a potential cliffhanger. No matter what, and then you just forget about it. You can, everything that comes after that, now that's next session that you already have prepared for. Because you're right, time management is incredibly important, and no one wants to hang out for too long. Game of Thrones final season, and so I was going to have them cross a bridge, fight a bunch of trolls, and then solve a puzzle for a treasure. They only got to the bridge. Guess what? That's a great cliffhanger too, right? Everything can be an ending point. Trust your gut, and not your cool thing that you prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
First, hi, Jack. I'm a fan. Both Second Wind and RLM. It's really cool.
He is cool.
It's true.
I'm a college student, and I go to my D&D club at my college, and I'm a DM there. And basically how it works briefly is I'm one of many DMs, and we kind of switch off week to week, and we all kind of collaboratively build this one kind of world to do multiple sessions in.
Yeah.
So my question is I have to basically build a town, characters, plot hooks for people to do multiple sessions in. And my question is, how do I make those things engaging both to my players and also to other DMs to be able to be hey, here you go. Here's this thing that you can also add things to and run sessions here.
It's an upsettingly good and complex question.
Thanks. I know it's not the most applicable.
No, it's
good.
basically what we're saying is, how do I make cool things, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to make toys for everyone to play with, which is that's the question. That's what we're all trying to do, which I think is a phenomenal question. Though it makes my brain hurt a little
Yeah,
bit.
it absolutely does. Something similar that I forgot to tack on to the end of that, so I'll add it to the beginning of this. Adding small, so if you have a thing that's just be willing to drop small bits of information, and then have something that people can latch onto. You drop 6 things. They're not going to pay attention to all 6 things. Right. But one of those things, they might be whoa, What's that? I have players that in the game I play, I have, rather than like gods, because that's too complex of like, why is the god of love not caring that the world is exploding? Like, I break it down into much smaller things that are like avatars. So it's like, oh, this is the avatar of this thing, of love, of war, of whatever. And there are much smaller ones, like the avatar of getting the bed sheet right the first time you try and get the fitted sheet on, like smaller things like that. And so, it's just a fun world building thing. And I have a bunch in the backlog, doesn't matter. But then I mentioned the avatar of teeth. And my players jumped on that.
Ew.
and they were like, what's the avatar of teeth? And I was like, oh, well, it's this giant like snail thing that has a shell made of skulls, and it has 3 heads. One is a snail, one is a shark, and one is a goose. And they were like, and they were on board. Like, I had people about ready to change classes to become like a person of this avatar to get their powers, and that's how they get their like holy powers. So like being able to put stuff out there that like if someone picks up on it, that it's a small detail that once they gravitate to it, there's something for them to get into.
Absolutely. And remember to start small, right? Like you start in a room, you move to a house, you move to a village. And so a writer friend told me that once, is you start very small and then you kind of grow your world out. And so whether you are starting with an NPC, a bunch of NPCs that one of your players falls in love with, or not actual love, but just really enjoys, or whether it's a shop, like the cool town shop that everyone wants to go to, or whether the village has a specific species of people that they fall in love with, just start very small and get that feedback from your players. And if something works, it works. Yeah. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's the simple answer.
No, those are both really good tips.
Oh, great.
Okay,
Well, thank you
sweet.
for your
Well,
question.
good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, good. We still have time.
We have 8 minutes and 31 seconds.
All right, I'll try to keep it brief.
Cool. We won't.
Yeah. Glad one of us is.
So I'm part of this gaming group where the etiquette is very much one person runs like a complete narrative experience and then passes the torch to the next person.
Love that.
We've been doing this for probably 3 years now.
Okay.
Now, the flavor of the week, and by that I mean the thing we've been doing for the last 2 years, has been either modern or science fiction horror games. And the thing that we have struggled to do is to stretch that beyond like a smaller experience into more of a campaign. Because the issue that we keep running into is the characters go through some initial trauma, and then they get to the end of it, it's like, okay, time to call the police and go home.
Sure.
So finding a narrative way to stretch that out into a proper campaign is something we've just struggled with, and I'm looking for narrative advice.
Do you have? I love horror. I love horror games. Do you have like set things that you have to stick to, or is it like anything goes?
Very loose.
Okay, so like ghosts, haunted dolls.
Absolutely.
They can. Okay. Can you incorporate more things that like are and a little tropey, but like that are unbelievable? That like if either of us called the police and was like, if my Teddy Ruxpin came to life and tried to stab me, they'd be like, no, that didn't happen. Like, are there things where going to authorities, going elsewhere isn't an option?
Well, sure, but then the problem just becomes, okay, we're moving to Canada. Like,
Right.
at a certain point, a reasonable person would just leave.
Right.
I think reasonable person is the problem. You can't be reasonable people in a fun horror scenario. You would just leave.
But what you're talking about here is general, like the build up and release of tension, right? Like you can only be scared for so long, either mechanically or emotionally, before you check out of everything. And so my greatest piece of advice is make them forget they are in a horror setting. Have a couple sessions where nothing scary happens and lull them in, and because then that will put them even more on edge, waiting for the hammer to drop. Have a beach episode. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Make sure you set up a scenario in which there is no horror, there is no tension, and that will help reset that so then your next arc can start building again, because you can't be this forever.
Yeah, tension and release is absolutely massive. That is very, very important.
Hopefully that. What you guys talking about?
He's thinking about it.
I want to have more answers to this, and I don't have them off the top of my dome right now. So like, this is going to be in my head for a while. Because a lot of times, because this is, you said, kind of modern, sort of sci-fi-y?
It depends on who's running it, but yeah.
Okay, so like you can't have every scenario where you're on a ship and you're going and now you're only on the ship. So, you know, the alien scenario, like you have to deal with it. There's nowhere else to go. Oh, this is such a good question, but I'm going to think about it.
Then I'm going to step off and let somebody else go.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Hi.
Hi.
So I am the over-prepared world builder kind of game master.
Perfect.
And especially in dialogue, my players will definitely go off script, and my brain just dribbles out the side of my head, and I'm like, Other than do more of it, do you have any advice on getting better at improving your characters, your NPCs?
Ooh. Oh, this is a me question.
I mean, I have thought, but you, please.
I'm a professional improviser. I make some money some of the time. That makes me a professional. Like we were talking about earlier, making sure that every character has a point of view. And for me, I literally write down the style of voice that I'm using and their default state, whether, you know, like we said, angry or horny or whatever. And that always gives me a starting point. So you can always go back to that well. I would actually say write less. Don't write like lines of dialogue for them. Just write that base point of view and start talking. Funny voices do help for me, but that doesn't help for everyone. Just keep in mind, what is their resting face? Is it a resting happy face or a resting bitch face? Mine is a resting bitch face.
Yeah, bullet points. Like Kermit the Frog, 7-foot-tall orc, is upset about blank. Bam. Like, yeah, keeping it as short as possible for you to build off of rather than trying to read all your notes.
Absolutely.
Basically what Jack said.
Yeah, so you're doing too much work, which I know is not going to help because you're going to continue doing that much work. We all do. But make it easier on yourself. Do less work and be sillier.
Yeah, do less is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. For those of us who are DMs and GMs here, that's the stupidest advice. We're not going to listen to it, but it's the best I can do. I'm sorry.
So you could do more work. You could do the same amount of work spread out more thinly.
Ooh.
So there you go.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
We have like just under 3 minutes, so we might have like one more.
So, I'm not going to say the game, but I've been playing a lot of it, and I want a DM, but how the hell do I convince people to let me be their DM when they're all brain rotted, burnt out, and don't want to play anymore? But I suddenly want to be DM, and now nobody wants to play. And I'm like, great, beautiful.
Other players an option, or is these only your only group?
I would start with new people if they wanted to, but like, I want more than one person if I'm gonna do it for the first time, and everyone just bye.
The reason I started DMing was because I wanted to play in general, and no one I knew played. So I said, F it, I gotta learn how to DM and learn how to play. If you start putting it out there that you are a game master, the players will flock to you. I have never had a problem finding players because no one wants to DM. You're going down a dangerous path. Once you put that out there, hey, I'm starting a game, you reach out to some people who might not have played. You might have to teach them how to play, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It can be burdensome.
Yeah, I don't have that flock of players that you have. That's great. If I put it out there, I may get some bites.
Find your
maybe not.
local improv theater. They're full of D&D nerds.
Yeah, that's probably very true. But yeah, putting it out there is huge. Just letting people know, hey, I want to do this. And like, because there are people that want to play who either haven't played before, are forever DMs, whatever it is. So yeah, just... It does mean you have to be like kind of what we were saying before, where it's like, oh, that anxiety and that uncertainty. You kind of have to put yourself out there and be a little vulnerable because people might be like, no, I don't want to, and it's like, oh, rejection, always bad. But yeah, putting yourself out there is important. Saying that I want to do this.
Absolutely.
What Jack said.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that helps.
I hope so too.
We all hope
no.
so.
We
Well,
really
thank you for
hope
your
so.
question.
We have
All right. We have 33 seconds, so unfortunately we have to wrap up. We're sorry. Just tackle us when we leave the building, and
Yeah.
we will talk to you personally. Thank you all so much for coming to this. This was so much fun. For all of you who are forever DMs, I'm sorry.
you can talk to us about it though if you want.
Absolutely.
Huh?
The what?
That's true.
That's right. And for those of you who want to play, look, you have a fresh DM there. For those of you who want more information on us, check us out, Second Wind. Check out Adventure is Nigh. These are our social media things, how to find us. And we have, oh God, it's flashing red.
Oh no, we're over now.
Oh no, it's counting up. Thank you all for coming. Have fun at PAX.